Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Cackling Pumpkins with another Behind the Patch. Today we're going to be talking about one of my cuter characters, Wave the Fennec Fox. Now you're probably thinking, out of all characters, you have a furry? Yes, I do. Now, we're going to have a lot of questions here, right? A lot of people are going to be asking, are you a furry? And this is something that I've thought about for a while. What makes someone a furry, right? Because you see the term thrown around a lot, but you don't really see a lot of people really explain what makes someone a furry. Is it just drawing anthropomorphic characters? Is it dressing up in those costumes? Or is it having a sona? Like, what makes you a furry? What is that line that you cross? Like, there's no denying it at that point. A lot of people have said it's just pretty much something that you call yourself, you know? Like, even if you draw a lot of the characters, you find them cool, you have a sona, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a furry. That's what a lot of people have said to me. It's pretty much just more or less what you want to call yourself. So, it makes sense. It makes sense. Now, would I consider myself a furry?
Yes! Yes!
Now, but besides that, let's get back to Wave. Wave is probably one of my most beloved characters, to not just me, but also the community. Whenever Wave appears, everyone is happy, I've noticed. I do see some people, like, of course, the people who are like, furry. But usually those people, they come and go. They just like to come in, leave a rude comment, and expect a reaction. Usually they'll just leave, you just ignore them. That's why I don't put too much thought into hate. Sometimes things can be a little more overwhelming, so that's the point where you get starting like mute threads, muting people, or just deleting the post. Like, take the L in some cases. But most of the time when Wave appears, usually it is in positivity. People really like this character, and I like her too. She is outright adorable. I created Wave actually back in 2016, and I actually found the very first sketch of her inside the series where I looked through my sketch pads. Originally, I created her as sort of a take of like, what if PlayStation at that point in time had a modern mascot that wasn't really like a human being or a Japanese mascot? They had like a Western mascot. So I decided to create this Fennec Fox character. Their clothing, as you could tell, is filled with PlayStation references. They got like the triggers on their shoulders. They got the PlayStation 4 touchpad on their belt buckle. You could see like a lot of PlayStation inspirations. And her name wasn't Wave back then. Originally her name was Eden, with an I. So I guess her name was Iden? I don't know. You think I know how to pronounce things? Think I know how to speak? Think I know how to read? That's expecting a lot out of you, huh? That's expecting a lot out of me. You should know, as a 26-year-old man, by the time you're watching this, up to 27, that you should expect me to be a Neanderthal and an absolute nincompoop when it comes to just about anything except drawing cute alternative women. That's the one thing I'm good at. But then eventually I changed the character in 2017. This is how she looked, and yeah, not that great. I didn't really want to do a lot of curved body types at that point, because back then, here's the secret, I was a prude. In 2016 and 2017, I was very much a prude on how I drew a lot of my characters. I was one of those people who'd be like, sexualization bad. To the point where I got openly mad at characters like 2B from Nier Automata, but that was more or less just because I didn't really like Hideki Kamiya. Hey, I was disliking Hideki Kamiya before it was cool, but now I can more appreciate the character's appearance. I was just kind of being a prude because I was trying to make myself out to be something more than what I really was. I think this is a problem some creators have, where they try their best to make themselves out to be something more. Like a professional or an entrepreneur in some cases, where it's like, if you like slasher films and not horror movies that talk about deep subject matter and heavy lore, oh well, that is just trash, and obviously you need to look into more deeper meanings into things. I only watch cartoons when they have deep lore and talk about mature subject matter. Comedy for the sake of laughter? What is this, a kid's cartoon? Yeah, those kind of fucking people. Drawing women with exposed stomachs and larger assets. Oh, so immature. Alright, Neil Druckmann, get off the fucking stage. I really do hate that mindset now, and I used to be just like that. Rarely I was. Now I'm open to admit, I just love gore and violence for the sake of it. I love violence in movies and sex on TV. Just for the sake of it. Sometimes I do appreciate when we're able to talk about deep subject matter, get a little existential, or do other things like that. But at the same time, that shouldn't be your overall goal. You gotta have some fun every once in a while. But unfortunately, that affected Wave because, yeah, her design was never really that good, and I can never really fall in love with the design like I do now with her current iterations. And that was mainly just because the character needed curves. Originally, I was going to try and make her more androgynous because I wanted her to be more like a tomboy, and I thought a tomboy would look androgynous. Now, that's not necessarily the case. The two do not go hand in hand, but the two can, work together in some cases. But that was the problem. I tried to give her more masculine features when she didn't really need them. Wave is a very bubbly character. She is someone who loves to go on adventures. She's easily excited. She's curious. And she is always a character who craves attention and can even be a little... if you get what I'm saying. So she kind of needed the extra curves that she has now, but it's just I wasn't willing to give them to her because I was being a freaking prude back then. I am indirectly telling women to be ashamed of their larger assets because I deem it beneath me. That's basically what you're doing, you prudes. Get off the fucking stage with your white savior complex. I tried to give her, like, some leather pants, a leather jacket. I tried giving her, like, a backpack, but it was just never really working out. At one point, I tried to give her, like, a bathing suit with, like, swim trunks that she would just walk around in so that she'd always be ready for a swim. That wasn't really working out either. It was in the right direction, but the problem was I needed to make certain things bigger. Not just her hips or her body, I mean also her hair, her ears, her tail. That was something I needed to do, and that's when I really started to fall in love with the character. This was around 2019 when I decided to give her the yoga pants, the sports bra, the sneakers, and the wristbands. Last year, I realized that she was missing some detail, and I wasn't exactly sure what to do, so I decided to just completely redesign her. So that's why I decided to change her sports bra to a top with a huge-ass zipper. I decided to give her sort of this short-sleeve jacket that's purple. I decided to give her tech wear pants. I decided to give her these fancy boots, a choker, but keep the wristbands, they're pretty cool. And also give her more detail in the eyes, give her the smug mouth that I love drawing now, and also just change the overall art style to be more akin to things like Sly Cooper. I take an inspiration from the 2D artwork of Sly Cooper because that is a cool looking series, especially I took inspiration from both Sly and Carmelita Fox while redesigning this version of Wave. And let me just say, oh my god, I'm looking at it right now and it's just beautiful. I love it. And ever since then, she's been getting more of a positive reception. People really like this character, and I'm glad they do. Funnily enough, when it comes down to falling in love with the characters I create, typically it is just giving them more cartoony proportions or cartoony assets. Giving them more Western inspirations. I've said this before, I'm not trying to like say, oh, it's bad when you draw anime, but it's just not for me. Personally, I prefer to take more Western inspirations. I don't hate anime, I think anime can be cool, but it's just not typically what I draw. Now, just like Elizabeth Darlington, I have been trying to go ahead and give Wave her own story. This has been difficult because I figured out the character, but like, it's been hard to figure out her story or the tone of her story. Do I want to do something more action-based, more lighthearted? Do I want to do something darker, existential, or scary? Do I want to make it a horror action series, or just an action series in general? I'm not exactly sure what to do here, because I'm always shifting between all of these different ideas. At one point I think, oh, I want to do a gory, violent story. But then I think, no, let's do something more lighthearted. And then I remember the reason I created Wave to begin with, well, this version of Wave anyway, not this exact version, it was like 2018, 2017. At this point in time, I was dissatisfied with the age of stories from Sonic the Hedgehog. This was a point in time when we were in an age, what people call the meta era, where they were just trying to tell meta jokes, they were trying to be self-referential, they weren't really taking themselves seriously when they needed to. Cutscenes were kind of just like 10 to 20 minutes per game. They clearly didn't have enough time to really flesh out their story with their cutscenes. That was definitely one of my biggest problems with Forces. You had the story where Eggman finally won, and he got this ally that has the Phantom Ruby that is able to distort reality, and yet you only have 20 minutes worth of cutscenes. I think just a little bit more cutscenes would have been able to flesh out the story more, especially since when you beat Infinite, he just kind of leaves. But of course, I don't have to really worry about that now. Sonic Frontiers fixed God knows how many of my and many other people's problems with the 2010s era of Sonic stories. It takes itself more seriously, it's lighthearted when it needs to be and not forcefully, it doesn't try to be constantly meta. Tails improves heavily from a lot of the damage that the meta era has done to him. They actually utilize other characters, it has a darker tone, it has an adequate amount of cutscenes to tell its story, and while it does have a lot of references to older games, a lot of them are mainly just name drops, and a lot of them are mainly done to sort of like compare, like almost like power scale, like, oh, that attack I saw was on par with Dark Gaia for sure, and that was meant to give you the idea of how powerful the attack really was. It was meant to give you an impression, and also to kind of improve from what was already there. I feel like that's where a lot of the references were. A lot of people made fun of the references and flashbacks, but honestly, they didn't really happen that much either. But like I said, back then I wasn't very happy, and at one point I was going to try and create my own story to kind of show, like, this is what I would like the series to be, but with my own characters, right? It was kind of like meant to be a spiritual successor, but now it doesn't feel like we need to do that. As long as they keep, bringing in people who are fans of the series, like Ian Flynn, to write these stories, and they just continue the momentum that they got from Frontiers, I'd say we're good. Now it kind of makes things even more difficult for Wave, because that was one of the biggest reasons I have continued drawing her. Now I kind of don't really know what to do with her. Good for the Sonic series to improve. I mean, how dare you improve and make things more difficult on my end? Obviously you did this intentionally. How dare you go in the direction that I was hoping you would, and not let me go ahead and create a story where I go ahead and show you what I'd like you to be. So yeah, but in the end this can make it more fun too. It's just, I feel bad because I feel like her story probably should have already come to be. I have a problem with procrastinating and sometimes taking way longer on things than I should. It's actually got me worried on things, because by the time you're watching this, I'll be 27, I'm nearly 30, and some of the stories I really want to tell, some of the big stories, have not been told yet. It gets me worried sometimes, and existential. I don't want to do that. But anyway, look at this beautiful fucking Fennec fox. Look at her. She's adorable, and I hope you think so. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you had a beautiful day, and I hope it gets even better. Your connection will be strange.